The Steyr AUG, or as it's called in Deadside, the UAG, a bullpup rifle designed in the late 1960s and adopted by the Austrian Army in 1978, becoming the first bullpup rifle to be officially adopted by a country as their main infantry rifle. It was considered to be a very advanced weapon for its time, having the same length barrel as an M16, while being 10 inches shorter in overall length. In the world of Deadside, it's quite a rare sight. It's a tier 3 weapon, meaning that it can only be found from heli crashes, hard missions, and cargo drops. It is often overshadowed by the AR-4, which is generally considered to be a more preferable weapon for most players. And for that reason, the UAG is not used very often. I feel like it's misunderstood by most players because of its unique characteristics that aren't very apparent when a player first uses the weapon. Instead, it gets compared to its contemporaries such as the GROM and AR-4, often being considered to be generally the same as both weapons in terms of performance. But even so, players tend to gravitate towards the AR-4 and simpler weapon platforms anyways. So let's talk performance. First, time to kill. I recently updated my weapon chart to include time to kill, which is the same data I'm going to be using for this section of the video. Link is in the description for anybody who is interested. In terms of time to kill, the UAG ranks 4th, with the time to kill versus heavy assault armor at 0.4 seconds. The only weapon with a faster time to kill is the MG36, P90, and AR-4, but they are only barely faster. The AR-4 has the fastest time to kill, with a 0.35 second time to kill versus heavy assault armor. So the only difference overall is at most going to be 0.05 of a second, which is only about 2 to 3 frames, if you're running 60 frames per second. But this is all theoretical time to kill. These numbers assume you hit every shot perfectly and instantly, and we all know that recoil makes that pretty difficult. So let's take a look at that. In terms of recoil, the UAG performs extremely well, to the point that it has one of the best, if not the best, recoil patterns for any assault rifle. For testing recoil, I built a structure at my testing base out of stairs, so we can use the steps of the stairs as visual indicators of how high the gun climbs while shooting. To keep the data accurate, I have sandbags behind me, so that if I hold my S key down, it will put me in the same exact position for each test, so that I'm not too close or too far away from the stairs. For every test, I aim in the center of the bottom left step as best as I can, then I fire the weapon, letting it climb while not moving my mouse at all. From these tests, I can confidently say that the UAG has the best recoil pattern out of any assault rifle, and is almost able to compete with some submachine guns. Here you can see a comparison between the GROM on the left, the AR-4 in the middle, and the UAG on the right. The UAG only barely makes it over the first set of stairs, while the GROM and AR-4 kick all the way up to the start of the third set. But just having low recoil isn't the only factor that contributes to the weapon's overall handling, and the UAG is not a crazy laser beam, despite having super low recoil, because of its handling. I'm sure that you've noticed it before, but when you aim down sights and strafe side to side, the weapon wobbles a bit while you're moving, making it more difficult to fire accurately on the move. What you maybe don't realize though is that the amount of wobble is different on almost every gun. In order to demonstrate this, I built a small structure behind where I was testing recoil control, to allow me to strafe side to side, while staying consistently in about the same spot. Doing this test, we can see that the handling of the UAG is actually pretty poor. When moving at all, the scope wobbles very far off target, making it extremely hard, if not impossible, depending on the range, to shoot on the move. Now compare that to something like the AR-4 AKM. You can see that these weapons provide a much more stable shooting platform on the move, and are much more well suited for close quarters combat. There is another factor that limits the UAG, and that's its reload time. Overall, it's not terrible, but it is still quite slow for an assault rifle. Using any AK platform will save you 1/4 of a second when reloading. And the AR-4, still being the king of stats in most categories, has a reload that will save you at least 1/2 to 3/4 of a second when reloading. Which might not sound like much, but when you're in a close quarters battle and get caught by a reload, that time saved might end up allowing you to win the fight, instead of getting killed because you're stuck in an animation. With all the data on the table, I think it's pretty clear that a unique playstyle is required to use the strengths of the UAG to its fullest. Because of its extremely low recoil, it's possible to spray accurately out to 50 meters or more, well, depending on your own aim. However, you will need to be in a static crouched position to do so effectively. The UAG then is a true outdoor rifle. It excels at ranges other assault rifles would normally become ineffective, being able to use its range and accuracy to spray down targets confidently while they struggle to either hit you with their rifle and semi, or with a sniper while taking automatic fire. This weapon is perfect for the northern side of the map, where it is much more common to encounter enemy players in the woods instead of inside of a building like you would expect down south. Something I have been experimenting with while making this video is running a hammer scope instead of a typical red dot. Because of its very low recoil, you can use the semi-auto function to reach out to about 150 meters effectively while firing frequently. Even closer, around 100 meters, using 3-round bursts is very possible. And at 50 meters or closer, full auto fire becomes very usable, despite looking down a 4-times scope. The only time it becomes an issue is when the target starts to come closer than 25 meters, and they can effectively use their assault rifles to hit you consistently. And because aim punch is much more extreme on high power scopes, chances are you're better off just hip firing and hoping for the best. When the new update hits and the 2-time scopes are in game, I highly recommend using that scope on the UAG. It's the perfect magnification for this weapon. The UAG starts to suffer when it is forced into quick close quarters fights, especially in areas like Bunker, or in the lower south regions. An AK platform or submachine gun will be much more effective because of their better handling and will consistently outperform the UAG at close range. Overall, I find the UAG to be a very unique and enjoyable experience. I find it fun to kit my character in all green and kill targets when they aren't expecting it. It excels as a defensive weapon and as a medium-range rifle capable of long-range, frequent, and accurate fire. I feel like too many players see the UAG and try to use it like an AR-4 or AK, and get outperformed at close range because of its poor handling. So, hopefully after watching this video, you won't make the same mistakes that they do. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you want to see more, hopefully that update hits soon, but until then, that's all I have for now. See ya.